Hello everyone and welcome to the September vlog part 2. I didn't realise it would be a part 2 if I'm honest with you, but I've just finished editing the first one and I've just decided to leave it there. So what I'm going to do is introduce the next set of clips you're going to see, and at the end of those clips I will talk about the 2 books that I finished whilst I was in... Actually, I'll talk about 3 maybe, but maybe just 2. About the 2 books that I finished when I was in Lisbon, because I started and finished the Merciless Ones by Namina Forna, and then I also ended up finishing The Body Keeps the Score, which I mentioned in the previous vlog. And then there was a book that I started on the plane and then finished like the next day when we landed. So I'm going to do that. But the next 2 clips, one of them is when we are at the aquarium, which was just such a nice experience. So I just wanted to include that. And then remember I spoke about going to a bookshop, so I'm going to include that. It's not the bookshop that I thought we were going to go to when I ended up looking up the sort of bookshop that was the really like pretty one. I realised it was super far away, and originally that was fine because we were going to hire a car, but we didn't. So then I was like, impossible to go there just to go to look at a bookshop. So didn't end up going to that one, but did go to one. So I'm going to feature that one here. So enjoy the next set of clips you're going to see, and then I'll come back to talk about those other books. Hey guys, so I don't usually do voiceovers for my videos, but there are some really nice bits in here, so I just wanted to like do a little voiceover and point them out. So on this day we actually ended up going to the aquarium, an oceanarium. Did you know there's a difference between an aquarium and an oceanarium? I did not know that, but then again, I do not frequent these things. I don't actually really like zoos either, but this was stunning. So when we got there, actually there was an exhibition going on, and this is the Forest Underwater exhibition, which has loads of like tropical forest and a huge aquarium essentially. So this was a really nice start to the beginning of just touring the rest of the oceanarium. This was such a special oceanarium. I always have to like pause, make sure I get it right, because they have this massive tank in the middle. So that's a lot of the clips that you're seeing. It's a massive tank that's just centered in the middle, so that when you're going around all the other different things to view, sea animals to view, you're always coming back to that. And it was just glorious. Like me, someone who doesn't really like being in water and stuff like that, like I've done snorkeling once and it wasn't very deep, and I would never do it again if I'm honest. This was gorgeous to see. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that there were so many beautiful sea animals, sea creatures. By the end of the day I was like, I'm really tired and sick of these animals now, but it honestly was such an amazing experience. If you ever go to Lisbon, I would 100% recommend that you go and visit this place. So unlike the Tuesday, we ended up going to the LX factory, which is kind of, I guess, like it used to be an abandoned warehouse or something, and then they've kind of like reinstated it, so there are shops. It's mainly like small independent sellers and things like that. So what you're seeing here is actually opposite the bookshop we went to. It has some small independent sellers in here as well, and some nice artwork, hello. And then we headed over to the bookshop. So this is just the inside of the bookshop. I didn't buy anything from this bookshop because the majority of the books were obviously in Portuguese, but I really loved looking at the covers. I don't care what anyone says, like covers are a really important part when it comes to picking books, and this is girl, woman, other. But yeah, covers are a really important part when it comes to like marketing books, and there's a lot of thought and time that goes into what the design is going to be like. So I always love going and just seeing what the covers are in different countries, because there is a reason why when they're bought by different publishers in different countries, they will put different artwork on it. So I was very happy to do that. There was a section with English books in it, and it was just nice to see some that I did recognise and some that I already had. But yeah, like I said, I didn't actually buy anything either, but it was nice to like browse the shop and things like that. And yeah, here I'm just going up the stairs so I can show you the bookshop from another viewpoint. There is also a coffee shop in here, but we didn't have any coffee or anything like that. Hello guys, I am back. So I said in the beginning that I would come back at the end to talk about the two books. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like that was just like over a month ago when I said that, but I'm here, I'm back. And I said I'd either talk about 2 or 3 books. I'm just gonna stick with 2 because the 3 books that I ended up finishing during my time in Lisbon was The Body Keeps the Score, what is this book called? The Merciless Ones, and then I started a book on the plane and then like finished it. Like by the time we got off, it was a thriller book, so it's fine. They can be easily consumed like that. And that book was Should Have Known Better. So what I'm going to talk about is The Merciless Ones, and then I'm going to talk about Should Have Known Better. The Merciless Ones is the second book in the Gilded One series. So this is by Namina Forna. It is a fantasy novel, I believe. It's actually its main like category, because I remember when I actually picked it up last time, the reason I put off reading it for a while was because I realised it was fantasy. Like I'd read the blurb and thought, oh, that sounds really good, and then later I realised it was fantasy and I was like, I just don't know if I can do this. So perhaps this review will make no sense if you have not read the first one, but soz, it's just the way it goes sometimes if a book is in a series. But in the first book, we basically had our character Decca, who is our chosen one essentially, discover that she is like a gilded one. Her blood bleeds gold, and there's all these things associated with that and what that means for her fate and for other women just like her. And essentially it's like all these women going to training camps, where there's like plot twist in the book, which, you know, ends with the sort of, I guess, deeper understanding of who she actually really is and who these women actually are. So there's that. Not going to ruin that one for you. So book 2 kind of follows on from that. It's building on from that. But again, I feel like Namina Forna has done it again, at least for me, because I don't read a lot of fantasy, so I don't know if this is usually how it goes, but there's just so much depth, and then there's another plot twist in there, and it just feels to me very seamless. It feels like a very natural progression of the story. So the blurb says, like on the back, that it's been 6 months since she freed the goddesses in the ancient kingdom of Otera and discovered who she really is. So a bit of an inclination there as to what may happen in the first book. But there are still wars going on across like the whole area that she lives in, and I think they're essentially trying to get to the root cause and like change the minds of essentially the men who were battling the women, because a lot of this book is very much rooted in the violence against women, the violence that happens to young women when they come of age or when they show anything wanting to do anything other than get married and submit to a man. There is a lot of that in there. Well, there's a lot of that in the first book, and the second book, you know, still has those themes running through it. Essentially, they're wanting to free women from this sort of life that they're condemned to. However, as Decca and her companions are like on this journey, there's just a lot of things that start to not make sense, and it becomes very apparent that perhaps the people who have been giving Decca the information about how the world is perhaps aren't who they claim to be. They're just not telling the full story. And you know what they say, there's always two sides to every story. So it's really hard to go on talking about this book any more than that, because the complexity and the like meat of the story lies in that. It lies in that discovery and actually what the real story is and what that means for her. If you can hear that squeaking, it's because I have cat TV on for my cat, but I don't even think she's in the room anymore. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it delivered the same sense of adventure that we got in the first book, and I thought the pacing was a lot better in this book. One of the things I had with the first book was the fact that things just seemed to happen really quickly, and I was like, the pacing's really off. And one of the things that happened in the other book as well was that a lot of things, I'm going to stop that squeaking noise because that's so annoying. A lot of the, can I stop it? Is it stopping? Yeah. A lot of the action, sometimes some action would happen off page and all of a sudden we'd be told about it, and it was just like, I feel like it would have taken like a page and a half to just cover that. Like, why didn't you? I feel like in this book, like, she very much focused on action being on page, and yeah, everything was very easy to follow. It was nice to be introduced back to some of the characters again, and I didn't ever find, like, even though we were introduced to some more characters, they were never like really cool characters, so I never felt like confused about like who was who and what was going on. I think it'll be interesting to see what the next novel does, because it is becoming apparent that while this book has huge themes of violence against women, that actually now we might see Decca in the sense that she is going to identify as non-binary, and it's still violence from men. It's still the theme of violence from men against other people, so you know, I still think it's very in keeping with the theme, but I did note that some of the reviews were a bit like, why are we straying away from the women against violence? But yeah, it does seem like on the ending we're talking more about Decca being not, I don't even know if it's just like non-binary, but also not like in her physical form as a human. So it'd be very interesting to see what she does with that. Again, for me, this is just such a new experience because I don't read a lot of books that explore any of this. It's just not my wheelhouse. It's not really what I prefer to read, but for me this series is very readable, it's very enjoyable, and I'm excited to see what happens next. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I feel like I actually gave the first one 4 out of 5 stars as well, so that's good. So the book that I started and finished is Should Have Known Better by AJ McDine, and I just had this as one of the books on my Kindle. I don't know if it was like a Kindle free reads or something like that, or like Amazon First Reads if you have like a, is it a Kindle subscription? I don't know. I don't even have a Kindle subscription, so I don't know what it is for. But anyway, I gave this 1 out of 5 stars. This book was so, I just thought this story was really chaotic, and I just thought there were loads of parts of the story that we were like shown that was like, this has no relevance or any interest to the story, and then all this stuff happens, and I'm just like, of course it has to be this dramatic and colossal, and it's just like, so those are the 2 books and the 2 book reviews for that. And yeah, that's what finished off my time at Lisbon. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the clips in the aquarium, and I hope you enjoyed the clips in the bookshop, and I will see you in another video. Bye.